Alrighty, so let's get this party started. So this is Helm Dev Call for Thursday, August 24th, 2017. So we'll start this off like every other meeting. We'll start with announcements, then we'll go through stand-ups through all the core contributors and maintainers, have any longer discussions that we want to talk about, and also do any demos that anyone wants to present. So for this week, I don't think there's any major announcements that needs to be done. There's one ticket for a 2.6.1 release, and then we're moving forward as it is for 2.7. So let's go through stand-ups. Myself, not too much other than going through the issue queue, providing support where needed. Nothing else necessarily on Helm. I think there's one ticket on the PR queue that Butcher, you asked me if I could take a look at it again. So I'll go back to that PR and give it another round of reviews. Other than that, steady as she goes. Go Taylor.
So I've been working on, I had a busy week at the beginning of this week, but I got some of the scaffolding out for Helm Commandeer. I can already notice some things that might be a little bit hard to do, like recording a release without actually installing a release, which you can't do right now. So from a plugin side, you can obviously from the back end, but I might have to write that in and see if that's worth adding or whatever. But that's what I'm working on with that. I also identified that bug with the dependency delete going on, which someone said they would take the bug fix. So I took hands off because if a community member wants to do it, that's great. So I think they're going to be submitting a PR. I was looking at it right now. They do have a PR open. So I'll probably try to review that. And then that should probably, I think it would warrant a 2.6.1 release because that's deleting people's charts and then not installing them because they're deleted, which is probably not a good behavior. So that's up to other people here too, but I think that might be a good idea to go ahead and try to cut a 2.6.1 releases with that fix in it, because that's kind of a little nasty. So anyway, that's what I've been doing. I'll go ahead and kick it to Butcher.
Okay. Let's see. I got the PR merged for the community notes. I think we are just going to do one page for notes, right, from here on out. So I can fix that PR after today, and we'll have meeting minutes done. I did a bunch of random Helm stuff last week. Tried to triage through the PR queue on Friday of last week, so it's in slightly better shape. But mostly what I've done in the last week is all planning related stuff with some of the other people in the Kubernetes community. So we are kind of sort of committed at this point to begin the Helm 3 planning phase in January. Brian, Grant, and I have been talking way too much, and that's kind of what we agreed on. So we'll kick that off at the Helm Dev Summit. And then the other thing I've been discussing is the Kubernetes community, the Kubernetes core KK project has asked us if we would start releasing at the same time as Kubernetes. So instead of doing our wait until the release on Kubernetes and then move over, they're going to try and kick API machinery and the Go client libraries out. As I understand it, they're going to try and get it out a little bit earlier than the main Kubernetes release, so we should be able to sync up and do a release within a week or so. And given how they're trying to make everything more stable now, that's more realistic. So we should decide if we want to commit to that on this dev cycle or on the next dev cycle, because it'll either mean a long dev cycle this time as we wait for the very beginning of October, so 7 weeks or almost 8 weeks instead of our usual 6, or if we want to try and do the Helm 2.7 release and then sync up Helm 2.8 to go as soon as Kubernetes 1.8 goes. So those are the main things I've been working on planning-wise this week. Lockie?
Thanks, Matt. Nothing from me. I just wondered if there's anything we can do to help as the chart maintainers team to actually start testing upstream on 1.8 against the charts that already exist. So feel free to pull us in, because I think maybe we could provide assist to get you a little bit more coverage on charts that are already out there. So that's my piece. Flick it over to who hasn't been. Taylor, have you been? You have been, right? Yeah, sorry. Who has not been?
I'll take it.
Okay, thanks, Michelle.
Yeah, just let's see. I talked to Karen over on our side about the Helm Summit, which would also include a Helm core maintainer planning phase, and some time for that, and some time for us to hang out. So we're still waiting on budget. She's gonna do some initial cost projections for us and get back to us on that. So still waiting on that. I also had some, there's a Helm, there were a lot of questions about Helm related things on at our last retro at SIG Apps. So there's a Helm Q&A doc, and we're hoping to maybe answer some of those questions at the next SIG Apps meeting. So I'll pass around those questions if there are any. I think there are a few that came in, so we can just address those during our stand-up. If we're comfortable, then we can also take questions there. That can be something we discuss at the end of this call. Let's see. Oh, I looked at a PR, the Helm README PR, which is a command from a community member, which takes a URL or a local path and then displays the README for a chart. And I was talking to Butcher about that a few days ago, and we came upon the conclusion that that might be better fit for being nested under the inspect command, since there's already Helm inspect manifest and Helm inspect values. I think that's Helm inspect chart and Helm inspect values. And so yeah, just left a comment on that pull request if anybody has thoughts. That's the thing. I think that's it for me. Adnan?
That would actually be useful, I think, for Monocular as well, because we currently have to extract the tarball and grab the README out. So yeah, I can see that being used. Yeah, I can go. I don't really have anything for stand-up really, but I did want to mention that there is a discussion going on in charts right now about function helper names and namespacing these. So I think right now we have functions all over the place that are just called full name, and these kind of stamp on each other. So there's a few PRs in there that's just changing all of these to be namespaced. There's still, I think, confusion from people that assume that if they reference, say, redis.fullname, they'll actually get the Redis name, but what that function is actually using is .chart.name, so you end up just getting the parent full name function anyway. I wonder if there's a better approach we can use to make that easier to reference from parent charts. But I'll paste in the issue where the discussion is happening, and if you're interested, you can add a comment.
Can you throw that link on the notes as well?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's a bit quirky because of Go template functions, I guess. But yeah, I was just curious if there is something I'm missing there.
I've also been trying to figure out a way to make template functions private, so you could say something like define private something, and haven't come up with a good. I came up with a really bad solution, but I haven't come up with a decent solution yet. So if anybody has ideas. Yeah,
I guess the only way to do that would be to create an environment where you just render that template for the chart or something, or render those functions for the chart. Yeah, it's a bit tricky. On the Helm Q&A note, isn't there a I don't know if you mentioned it during your stand-up, isn't there a form that people have been submitting questions to?
Yeah.
That's something we want to share out before
Yeah.
the Q&A. And the other thing about that is, if I don't know how many questions there are about charts or how many there will be, but because I remember from the retrospective there were a lot of questions about charts, and it may warrant a separate Q&A in the future in SIG Apps just for charts. And that's all I have. Who hasn't gone? Maciej, have you been?
No. Yeah, okay. So first of all, end-to-end tests. The framework is ready and on review. I got a really good review from Taylor regarding the Circle CI 2.0 config. So it's much slicker now. The end-to-end PR is rebased on it. So if you want to check it out, here is the link. Actually, if you would like to, write your own end-to-end test, because why not? Right now we only have one small scenario, because this, let's say, PR was not about creating scenarios, but it was mostly about creating a framework that would enable us having end-to-end scenarios. Here is the file. It uses Ginkgo and Gomega libraries. It's quite straightforward, I think. Basically, how it works, it spins up the Dint cluster and creates a new namespace inside this cluster in each test case, for each test case, so all test cases should be isolated. Yeah, okay, so this is first thing, so I'm waiting on review and feedback on that. The second thing I want to talk about is the proposal that I started writing. And it's about using existing Helm releases as dependencies for charts. So basically you can deploy a chart, install a chart, and then install other charts which have the chart on which the existing release in their dependencies, but they won't deploy their own copy of this chart. Okay, I hope there's no correlation. Yeah, so if you have any feedback, if you think that it doesn't really make sense, I would like to spend some time today on whether it actually makes sense to do such feature, or is this thing so not Helmy that it won't even be considered for merging. Yeah, so that's it from me.
I forgot to. I'll get to your review for the E2E thing. I told you I'd get that to you, so I'll get that to you next. Hopefully tonight.
Cool.
And then if Adam's out, Matt, do you think he'll be okay with that circle config? Because it looks good to me. He just kind of commented on it, but didn't fully do like a review, like a deny or approve. And so I wasn't sure if we wanted to wait on him before Maciej.
Well, I guess there's no rush. I mean, the most important PR for me is the end-to-end. So the circle config is only, means to an end. But if you think we can merge it, then well, the problem is I'm not sure how it will affect the deployments of releases, because I didn't test it. And I would probably not want to test it before Adam gives his okay to that, because he usually handles that, right?
Yeah, I think I'd give him a little bit of time, because he was, I think he was, if I recall, trying to get it running on his own Circle CI account to test it that way. So he's probably, if he didn't make any kind of final comment, I would wait for
I just wasn't sure what he was doing, and I didn't want to throw another PR on top of his plate and him being sick, so that's why I was asking.
Yeah, and I know he spent from about this time yesterday through the end of the day working on it with very few interruptions, so I know he's really working through it.
That's great to know, thanks. Yeah, so does anyone else? Because that's it from me. I want to discuss this proposal in the proposal section, I guess. And is there anyone else left for the stand-up? I'm sorry for not taking notes of who was.
No, it doesn't look like anyone else from the core contributor team has. Everyone's done their stand-up. Does anyone else want to bring up anything on the stand-up side from outside the core contributor team, or shall we move on to the larger discussions? We'll take the silence as a no. All right, so longer discussions. So from what I heard from Stand Up, we've got 2 different longer discussions, or maybe even 3. The Q&A, Michelle, you wanted to bring that up?
Yes.
And then Mache, you wanted to bring up a longer discussion about not about the E2E, but about adopting the or installing or Helm releases that exist. And then was there a third discussion that we wanted to have, or is that about it? Okay, so Michelle, why don't we start with the Q&A first, and then we'll move on to Mate's.
Yeah, there are no, I just checked the form, there are no submissions, so I'll send this out on the SIGAPS mailing list, but if you could be at the SIGAPS meeting, that'd be awesome. Does everybody have contacts? I brought this up before, so if this is new to anyone, or if anybody has any questions, please ask.
When's the SIGAP meetings? I'm ashamed to admit I've never attended the SIGAP meeting.
It's okay. I'm going to assume that you choose to watch the recordings. They're 9:30 a.m. Oh, sorry, 9 a.m. Pacific on Mondays.
So what exactly is the Q&A about exactly? I'm not familiar with the Q&A.
I think actually there were some questions around Helm release schedule, like what details about what it supports in terms of Kubernetes release versions and things like that. And so I don't remember exactly like all the details, but I just remember there were a few things that came up around retro. Nobody has asked them, so I just want to give people time and the appropriate venue to ask those questions. And so the format will be such that we'll go through stand-ups, and then we'll just do the Helm stand-up first and leave 5 to 10 minutes for Q&A and cut it off at 10 minutes if there are any questions. It could totally be awkward silence, but we're just promoting it and seeing if anybody wants to come and ask things. But there are no questions to prepare for, so it'll just be a fun mystery discussion.
Yeah, I think specifically the question about whether Helm releases should be tied more to Kubernetes releases was brought up at the Kubernetes community meeting last week. There was even a question of whether Helm should block Kubernetes releases until it supports it. So yeah, I think that might be something that comes up.
Yeah, and that might be a question of whether the Kubernetes community as a whole considers Helm to be a first-party product or a third-party. So I guess, yeah, we can have that discussion.
So yeah, that's something we can include in the stand-up. And let's see. Butcher, you're going to do the stand-up, right? Or is somebody else going to do it?
In SIGAPS on Monday?
Mm-hmm.
I was planning on doing it, but
okay.
I don't do it.
No, that's cool. Just wanted to make sure they weren't out or anything. Okay, yeah, that's all I had for Helm Q&A.
All right, Mache, you want to give up your discussion and proposal?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so the link was pasted, but I will paste it again just in case it got lost. So basically the idea is that some people I asked some people in Mirantis where I work what grinds their gears when they use Helm and what pain points are there. One of the pain points was that when they deploy when they install a chart, it's not usable as a dependency for the next charts that they install, right? So the question is, was it ever considered to use existing releases as parts of the deployment of the next charts? And if, it's in the proposal, right? But I just wanted to pick your mind a bit if you've thought about it, talked about it, or if it doesn't make any sense to you.
Can I go?
Yeah, sure, of course.
I actually think it's a fabulous idea. It is one of the things that Helm has not had any mechanism outside of label selectors to do runtime-based dependency. So I've on occasion have done this where I've basically written service gateways that go in one Helm chart and point to another existing service that lives in the cluster. But you have to know, but basically the chart developer has to be aware of what those dependencies would be at chart development time, which doesn't help the off-the-shelf chart use case. The thing that ends up being tricky about this is you have to make sure that Helm's deeper release management stuff like deletes, purges, rollbacks, and things like that will correctly ignore that kind of stuff when you override a runtime dependency. I have a comment like half done on this. The other tricky case is you have to accommodate the case where chart A has subchart B has subchart C, and chart A has subchart AA, which also has a subchart C, and you only want to point one of those two dependencies. But I think you can do that with just that initial config being pathy or allowing pathiness. But I think this could be a pretty cool idea. It might require chart developers to alter some of their techniques, but not in a compatibility breaking way. So that's my two cents.
The other thing with that, Matt, that I was thinking about is that I worry about like deleting those dependencies in the line. So like what happens if you have like that subchart A points to subchart B, points to another dependency C? Like what happens if you delete C? Will Helm not allow you to delete it because it's a dependency of something else? Like do we have to then build that dependency graph and store it with the release? That's one of the complicated things about it. Because I think like the basic level of just having like a single chart point to another separate chart is going to be pretty easy to implement and maybe would be the good first pass. But then we'd have to think about how we're going to handle the dependency chain that goes on with any dependency management.
Yeah, and my inclination there would be to not try and solve that problem initially, because it would be the same as trying to solve the problem where if I install Apache and if I install MySQL on my local host and I set up my PHP script to talk to Apache to talk to MySQL, I can still delete MySQL without Apache knowing anything about it. And then all I'm arguing here is that operators would be familiar with debugging that sort of problem. It might not be the best case, but at least it wouldn't introduce something that was shocking to them that they could delete one service and services that depended on it wouldn't work anymore. So I would advocate for punting on that until we had a good idea of how to handle that dependency graph.
Just went to this as well. Since we started working on Helm, I call this scenario horizontal dependencies in my head. I don't even know if that makes sense, but that's what I call it. And it would be really nice to have. I think before we were just kind of like we have no idea how to actually do this. So I think it'd be a really great thing to tackle. Don't know if you have I haven't seen the issue yet, so I don't know if you have like some implementation details. I'd be really interested in reading that and seeing if you're just creating services and connecting based on labels and whatnot. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, so I didn't have a lot of time to think on it and work on the proposal. So I guess I could mark it as work in progress, the proposal itself. But one thing is that probably we should omit rendering the parts of the install chart that are covered by the dependencies that we want to use, right? But it's obvious. So there are some obvious stuff and some like Matt and Taylor. Some of the stuff is not that obvious, but I think that's good that we agree that we can start working on the POC of this feature and then see how it goes and maybe add dependency going through the dependency graph. Okay, I'm starting bubbling. So thanks for the feedback. And if you have anything that you want to add to the proposal or anything that you would like to see in this feature, please let me know, because I will probably work on it for at least next sometime soon. And so I guess that's it from me. If anyone else wants to contribute to this discussion, I will be happy to hear it.
Nope, I guess not. Or maybe. Okay. Michelle, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to, since it's like, I think we go past 45 minutes now, but I got a little worried, and then I wanted to just mention, let's not forget to do the next week note taker issues are person.
Yes.
Good point. Thank
Channeling
you.
my inner Taylor.
I guess we are over time, but does anyone have any demos that they wanted to perhaps slate in for next week, or any super quick demos? Nope. Okay. So who would want to take on issue Mahajar this week?
I can do that this week.
Maharaj. Okay. So it's Taylor. And then anyone want to do meeting leader next week?
I can do meeting person. I won't be on a plane. So I can do that.
Okay. And note taker.
I'm happy to do notes again.
Yeah, it wasn't so bad, and I'm just gonna fill in the sections for the next meeting, like I do for SIG apps, and I think that might help.
All right. If there's nothing else, then I think we're good to go.
I have one more quick thing, if it's okay. Yeah, so I have a question about what should be our policy regarding end-to-end tests if they get merged or after they get merged. Should we require all new features to be covered with these tests, or should it be done per feature on a per feature basis, or is it too soon to talk about this because it's not yet merged?
I don't think it's too soon, but I think one of the first things we could do is create some issues that we mark as starters, or maybe not starters, but like, I don't know, I'm not sure if all of them would be considered starters, but to like write some of the end-to-end tests that we're missing, because it allows people to get to know the code as they write them, and maybe that's a good use for it. I mean, I'll probably, like me personally, if I write another feature for weight, for example, I would probably write the whole end-to-end test. So
Yeah, I guess you can also go through and see how it is for the time being, and I guess we'll let Adam review and see his opinion on that too. And then we can figure out, based on how everyone's feeling, on what the end-to-end test suite is working, if it's too slow, or if it's bumping the timeout too much, or whatever else. And then we can just keep rolling forward with whatever we want to do from there. I say ship whatever works and then move from there.
Sure thing. Thanks.
All right. See you guys all later. Have fun. And ladies.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a nice day. Bye.